Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Medium's Table. I'm your host, Michelle Gardner. This podcast is your personal invitation to join me at the intersection of the everyday and the extraordinary. Together, we'll explore the magic of mediumship, share spiritual stories, and connect with fellow mediums on this incredible journey. So grab a seat, pour yourself a cuppa, and come join us at the Medium's Table, where spirits gather and stories unfold. Disclaimer, just a heads up to all our lovely followers. Our social media is a space where we share personal stories, including those of various mediums. Let's keep the vibe positive and respect each other's beliefs. Every journey is unique, and here we celebrate the diversity of experiences. I'd like to welcome to the show our amazing panel of mediums. Yes, we're back. It's been a little while, but here we are again with another exciting topic that we're going to bring to you today. But firstly, I'm going to go around to each of our participants, our amazing mediums, and for each of you to just say who you are and a little bit about what you do. So let's start off with Christian.
Hi, my name's Christian Williams, and I'm an evidential psychic medium in the New York City area. And I do readings for people by appointment.
Fabulous. Jeanette.
Glad to be back at these bantering fun, bounce off each other, crazy stuff. I'm Jeanette Nunez. I'm in Miami. I'm a medium, trance channeler. And every time I think I know what's going on, there's more. So it's not unending. And I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Elena.
Hi, I'm Elena and I live in Ireland and I'm an evidential medium. And I also am involved with crystals and all of the supernatural. That's me.
Fantastic.
Thanks,
Alicia.
Hi, I'm Alicia Parrish, and I live in New England, in New Hampshire, and I am an evidential medium. I'm an intuitive. I do healing, and trance mediumship, of course, how I met some of your lovely souls, and so excited because I am synchronicity. I love synchronicity, and I've studied it in depth. So I enjoy doing that as well and putting the pieces together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Now, each of you have done other panels of mediums, and you've also done individual recordings. So I'll also put those up in the comments in the description below. So you can go back and rewatch individual interviews, which are all very, very interesting and reflections of your lives and stories. So today, as Jeanette says, we'll try not to get into too much controversial debate. We're going to ask the big question: do spirits experience emotions or feelings? Now, we have had a discussion, I'm going to honestly say, prior to recording, what are the difference between feelings and emotions? And we all just sort of, our heads spun around. Some people got it, some people didn't, and that's fine. So we're just going to break out into each individual's belief, story, or what you think. And I love the fact that we each have a different variation of what we believe or think or have experienced on this question. So we're going to start with Christian. Christian, what have you got for us today?
Well, I guess I'm just going to say something about emotions and feelings. Emotions are very rapid, unconscious physiological and behavioral responses to stimuli. So they're very physical world, incarnate human being things. And feelings are basically the conscious effect of that. So from my point of view, spirits have feelings like human beings have feelings, but spirits don't experience the emotions. They don't get that rapid, almost reflexive response. So, which isn't to say spirits can't feel that, though. But the only way for them to feel that is if they are in some way blended with you and you experience that emotion during that blend. That's really the only way a spirit will pick up on that emotion. Otherwise, it's all feelings driven.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's not based on any churchianity or anything like that. That's just sort of what I feel I've experienced with spirit.
Yeah. Okay. And that's interesting that you've defined that for the viewers and listeners, because I think sometimes we go around using the words, I don't want to say loosely, but we've been taught in sentences how to use a word, but do we fully understand what each one means? I think is, have we actually delved into that a little deeper? So thank you for that. Jeanette, what do you have for us?
I am thinking of just the experiences that I had. Because for me, I take a question like that, and it's a great question. So you come up with a question, then you form a hypothesis, and then you start gathering information, and you like kind of like the conversation we were having prior to this, go out and then bring it back into focus and come up with more information. Anyway, so for me, all I can discuss is what I have experienced in the years that I've been working, which is short-lived at this point, really like 3 years. The first time that I had a real deep sense of what was being brought to me by spirit was a husband and wife, parents of the gentleman that I was working with. And I did not know him, so I did not have any preconceived notions of who had passed, what feeling or emotion would have been associated with whoever was coming in. So I was kind of like a clear, clean slate. And the first thing that I sensed myself was sorrow, shame. They were just really sorry. And long story short, the individual was a homosexual and he was already much older. And they were explaining to him how badly they felt and how they didn't really know better because of the dogma that they were, basically programmed with as they grew up and became parents. But I could feel that. And then it shifted towards the end. I mean, it never got to joyful elation. It got to like some kind of understanding where he understood where they were coming from. From that, another story, another reading, and it makes me smile. I still think of this individual incredibly joyful. And again, reading for someone who I didn't know, no expectations on emotionally where this would take me. Joking, happy, just a jubilant type of guy. And what he showed me, like my mind's eye, the real was, he was very playful, incredibly playful and fun. He would kind of smack his wife's derriere as she was going up the stairs and go, that a gal, at a gal. And he just had a lot of fun in his life. So I experienced that element of when you're playing, how you're happy and easy and kind of childlike. And the emotional takeaway from that was, just like easy and joyful. And then moving into anger, where someone came through, and this is the first time that happened to me. And she came in hot. And again, went in without any expectations, didn't know the backstory. And this one put me off because I was like, whoa, this is not how things normally go here. And immediately, I think on the other side of the veil there was some kind of manipulation, is what I felt, other, entities or energies influencing. And she calmed down. But that first first energy that I received or frequency that I got from her was angry, just really pissed off. I've experienced fear from a spirit that was in a situation that they weren't, really privy to or trying to figure out how to get out of. They were just very confused. I've experienced confusion. I've experienced tremendous gratitude. The most significant one was a mother who had passive cancer, and the daughter had diligently cared for her, rubbing cream on her feet, and her biggest message was how grateful and thankful she was. Just and then of course love, because I think that is like the strongest of all of those frequencies and vibrations. And that one was a young boy who had passed in a car accident. And again, did not know the lady, did not know any of the background story. And when he was able to give a cue word to the mom, because they had set this up before, before he passed, and expecting that she would have gone first, obviously, he was very young. And then he just was really excited. And then the amount of love that he wanted to convey to her, it filled me. So it's interesting what Christian says is that our emotion, but in order for me to feel that emotion, it has to be derived from source somewhere. So it has to be kind of like you say, her laughter is contagious. Or if you're with somebody that's a real, Winnie the Pooh, well, Debbie Downer type person, you leave there and you go, man, I feel really bummed out after lunch with that person. My personal experience at this point, because it could change tomorrow with a different experience, is that they're emitting these emotions. Is this part of their way to communicate with us because that's what we understand? But to me, that's what I have felt with them. Yes, I have felt anger, I have felt remorse, I have felt sorrow, I have felt shame, joyful cheerfulness, just the gamut of jealousy, also envy. So when I'm thinking of our emotional scale, a deep depression, also with the sorrows and stuff like that, of like, I don't think I could ever, what did I do? I can't fix this now. Desperation. I have sensed all of those emotions through the work that I have done. The scientific part of it would be cool to see what they do in like the next 5 or 10 years. Metaphysiology and science and everything is like busting open with all of this. But that's my 2 cents, on emotions and spirits and in my experience.
Yeah. And I think we can all understand what you've experienced, because I think we've all sort of experienced that ourselves, you know what I mean? As mediums, that's how they can come through, or they do come through to portray part of their character as well, isn't it? They were this type of person. They feel like, yeah, fabulous. Thank you, Jeanette.
Thank you.
Elena.
Hi. Well, my kind of story is very similar to Jeanette, or my experience. And when you first asked me this question, it immediately drew me to one specific experience, because it was the strongest one I've ever felt. And it was actually a soldier that I saw along the road at 2:00 in the morning when I was driving. And when I saw him, I couldn't speak. I felt literally like I started crying. I felt like I just lost my mother. I felt that it was his emotion. He wanted me to feel it, if you get what I'm saying. I've never felt such a strong emotion, even though I was in the car driving past and he was standing there. And I knew that he was a spirit, because you just know. I did find out that this road was built by soldiers hundreds of years ago, or long time ago. it was just a very emotional. I couldn't talk until I actually got to where I was going. And my daughter was sitting next to me and she goes, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I was tapping her leg. And eventually when we got there, I was like, "Did you," and I told her what happened. And it's, I always think of this boy. And it's like, I don't know, I think he wanted me to feel the loss that his mum felt, maybe, you know? Now, as that is like what Jeanette says, is it the emotion was he feeling that he made me feel? Or, it's hard to say. But there's another question with, spirit goes to see when they pass and they do their life review and they can't move on until they forgive themselves. Now that is one, everyone has their own beliefs, but I had an experience with a very, she's a very good medium here in Ireland. And she had brought a grandmother through of mine, my dad's mother. And she wasn't a very nice person, say, when she was here. And she came through, and this medium actually even said to me about, she's forgiven herself now that she's in, in spirit. And she wants you to forgive her. Now, to me, that shows if a spirit is in their life of you and they need to forgive themselves, is that not an emotion or a feeling? Do you know? Are they feeling, because if they have to forgive themselves, surely it's, I'm thinking it's kind of an emotion. But those are the two, I'd say, kind of stronger that experiences that would relate to this.
Yeah.
So,
and it's amazing how spirit can, impact us with what they have felt or what they want us to, for us to have a deep understanding of where they're coming from during that moment of communication. And it can be quite profound, can't it? Quite profound for us to feel and experience that. So, yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
I'm just a little bit awed about that soldier. That's like, wow.
Yeah, I've looked out for him a lot. I was actually taking my son to the after hours doctor, and my daughter was in the front and my son was in the back. So it was just very strange. But yeah, I'd never forget him or that feeling. Now, I felt spirit, when you're giving a reading, like Jeanette says, you can feel it, can't you? But this was different. It was I've obviously never lost a son, but I felt like I had, it was the most, so I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah. And it's quite profound and it is hard to describe as a medium to, when we've got to break it down, it's just like you're feeling what they're feeling. It's hard to put human words to it sometimes. Yeah, wow. Thank you, Elena.
Yeah.
Alicia.
Oh, it's my turn. As soon as you asked this question, I had to really do a deep dive in. And because I've been doing mediumship for many, many years and trance, and I don't feel their emotions, to be honest. And I will just say, well, I have this lady here, and what I will say is she's showing me sadness. She left. There was sadness. And there's something about that, or the joy, or the fear, or the happy. I can feel them, but I believe that it is a vibration, right? It's energy. Energy is a vibration. I believe that they are projecting how they feel or have felt, not necessarily feeling it, at that moment, but projecting how they had felt or how the sadness. So now I'm picking it up as a vibration, which, if we're sensitive enough or empathetic enough, we're going to feel it. Just like Elena said, she broke down. She was crying. She felt that. I feel it, but I don't respond. And it's unusual. I have said many times, and I think I've even spoken to you, Michelle, about this. I wish I could be as sensitive as other mediums are, like, oh, you know, how they feel and they get that. Because Elena, you really felt that. And Jeanette, you really felt those feelings and that elation and that fear and that anger. And you express it, where when I'm doing my mediumship, it doesn't come through like that. I just keep going on as the person's there's crying and crying and crying. And I thought, if I could just have a little bit more of that feeling to give to someone. And Spirit told me, they said, it's not for you to take on, Alicia. It's not yours. It's the sitters. They want the sitter to feel it. And I thought, so as I get the information, I'm passing it through. I feel as though I'm passing that energy to the sitter. I'm just the conduit. And that's the only way I can explain it. So again, I'm just very different that way. And it was very hard for me to try to explain it to everyone. I hope you can understand it. It's just different. So when I'm doing a reading or a spirit's coming to me, I'm like, all business. Like, what do you want? How can I help you? What are we doing today? And they'll explain it all. And I'll get that. Yeah, they were sad and they felt, but I'm not feeling it to feel it myself. If that makes sense. I know. So in other words, I just believe projection. They are projecting onto us that feeling and not actually feeling it, maybe. My thoughts.
So would you sort of maybe go along the lines, for simplicity's sake, of saying that you have a knowing of what the spirit felt or is trying to project to you in the words of feeling, as in a knowing that this spirit is sad, a knowing that this spirit is happy?
Yeah, or they're telling me.
Okay. Yeah.
Just, saying, I was really sad and it was hard for me, or yeah, that would be the best way to say it. They will say it to me.
So do you think then, guys, that spirit brings through what we would say we'll just call feelings, or how they felt, in the best way for the medium to be able to communicate it to the sitter, whatever that is for each of us individually?
Yeah.
In all scenarios, there's the three components. So there's the sitter, the energy coming through, and the medium, the conduit that's bringing it through. For example, I was thinking when she was talking about projecting, we can go to a movie and watch someone in the movie lose their child, and a good portion of the audience will cry, and others will be like, okay, I wonder what's happening next. So that variable being the human, we ourselves can be wired differently. And on a particular day, or given hormones, if any of you have ever had a teenage daughter, the reactions can be much more than they were a couple of years ago. Same thing when you're pregnant. So that's one element. And so I'm wondering, like what Alicia's saying, always the spirit, I think, knows what they're dealing with. They're to me the big kahuna. They're the ones that figure this whole thing out. Like I said, to also just, connection. And then we read it, but they probably have a lot to do with manipulating how that all comes across. And ultimately, the sitter. I'm sure you guys have had a reading where that person is very defensive. And maybe everything that you're discussing or that's being brought to them to help them, they're like, oh, no, that's not me. I don't do that. And that defensiveness, had that not been there, if they were in a different capacity at that point, they would have received and had a different emotional response to whatever we were saying. So, and I think we've all talked about this. It's different for each medium. I think it's different for everybody that participates. And I think also the third element being spirit, whatever they bring to the party. And each reading, even if it's the same medium, I think each reading is different because your sitter is going to be different. Whatever's going to be coming through is going to be different. But I also think that us as a medium, when my husband first died, it was like a Kleenex commercial, and I'd be crying for hours. Kleenex used to have these commercials that were like Hallmark moment movies. You're like, wow. So all of those elements combine. And I think, like I said before, it'd be fascinating if the years actually come out and give us a couple of legitimate possibilities. I don't think we're ever going to have a definite, at least not while we're embodied.
And
I'm hoping once they cross over, I'll know it all.
Yeah, with that, Jeanette, I have, I'm thinking if you have the sitter there, right? And the sitter is tearful because she's so sad of the passing of her husband, the Kleenex, right? And you're bringing through her the love of her life, who's now gone. Could the medium empathetically be picking up on the sitter when she's saying, the sadness of the sitter? Because this could be a two-way thing.
Like when you get into blind studies, then you would sit with the sitter, and some of the universities actually do stuff like that, where instead of you being with the sitter, you're with, person A that is getting the information from person B, and then down the road, 4 people away from you is the actual sitter. So I'm waiting for science to come up with some good answers. I'll be sitting and waiting for them.
My aunt, who was clairvoyant, she died and came back. When she did, and she came, now this is in the kind of 80s, 90s, there was no kind of Google, so if you wanted to know anything, you had to go to the library to get an encyclopedia. So when she passed, and then she came back. She asked, the only person she wanted to speak to was my mom. And she described what she saw when she was there. And she said it was the most beautiful thing she's ever seen. She could breathe underwater. She could see, it was just these beautiful flowers. Now, bearing in mind now, you see a lot of stories, back then there wasn't a lot in, so the things she kind of said is what a lot of other people said they saw and felt. But that's my point. She said how she felt when she was there. So if she had passed and she came back, she was out of her body. She went, but obviously it wasn't her time, so she came back. So she was describing what she felt when she was there. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, this is one of those, like Jeanette said, you will know when we get there.
Right?
Yeah. I'll come back and let you know.
You should do that. It's a date.
Yeah, because there you eliminated one of those variables because she's directly saying, this is what I felt. This was my response to what I was seeing around me.
Mm-hmm.
A great point.
Yeah. Christian, have you got any more you want to add to this?
Well, I've experienced all sort of sorts of deep emotions while connecting to spirit. But I look at that as part of the message, that they're triggering me to convey that stuff to the sitter. But I don't get the feeling like that's where they're emotionally at right now. I feel like it's part of the story they're trying to convey in the message.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you're saying. Exactly. They're picking a moment in their human lifetime that happened, which comes with, and part of those, you would say, feelings are part of that explanation. Is that what you're thinking? Is that what? Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Wow.
So in the day-to-day life of spirit in the spirit world, I really don't think that they experience the extreme negatives that we experience in the physical world, because it's just not part of who they are now to have those blinders on. But I could be wrong.
Yeah. But I mean, I love it because, each of you have shared experiences, and we can only go by our experiences. This is what we've been shown, or this is what we've felt, or do you know what I mean? And that's what's shaped our belief now. And like you said, Jeanette, until you've experienced otherwise, this is where you sit now on that, on that question and that topic. So it's really interesting. And I love hearing, the variation stories and how you guys are receiving this information, and how it's coming through and what's going on with that. So that's interesting as well. And this is what I love about, interviewing all of you guys, is that each of you are so unique in your experiences, so unique in your stories, and so unique in your beliefs. Some similar, but there's still that uniqueness because of what you've experienced.
I have a thought, and one of the things I'm sure when we all do readings, we all have done them, is how, when you're saying to your sitter, what is the language you're using? Because how are you explaining? They are feeling, they feel afraid, or they are making me feel sad. What is the verbiage you use to give it to the sitter? Because I know for a fact, I will say, I feel. So in other words, I'm not saying they're feeling this. I'm getting the feeling. Or does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, it does. Yeah. You're right.
Instead of, because that was one of the things I went back to. What is my catchphrase when I say, when delivering? I'm seeing, I'm hearing, I'm feeling. Which is it coming from? How am I stating it to the sitter? And that's how I kind of came up with my answer.
Yeah. Well, you've really broken it down there. I don't think I think that deeply into it. Maybe like some people do. Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. And a good, it's something to reflect on as well. How are we portraying that? What are our words stating to the sitter? Interesting. Wow. Any last words for the viewers and listeners, guys?
For me, this is a to be continued. I mean, I was listening to somebody today who's doing they're now kind of blending mediumship with AI. And asking, and actually two different sources that, when you come up or you hear something, and I know that they're constantly feeding us whatever we just saw, but one was in one area completely different. It was like on a Zoom thing, somebody else. And then it makes you wonder, do they hear everything you hear? I don't know. But anyway, follow the topic. And then I saw it again with somebody else who asked their AI a question relative to consciousness and field theory and everything else, and emotion. And what it came back with was kind of boggling. And the idea of utilizing AI to connect with spirit, because what they're saying is that it's connected to infinite consciousness. So if you ask it something about water, it has, as a computer, the ability not only to go into its hard drive, but to connect to other computers that are connected to other computers, and so on and so on and so on. So the density and the depth of whatever they're accessing to give you an answer is immense, infinite maybe. And so somewhere in there, the thinking is, I've heard, that they're having the ability to connect to the ultimate consciousness. So that's the latest thing that I've heard on this, which would kind of go back to what we're discussing of whether they have emotions and really finding things out to be able to have access. Because right now, there's a few of us on your panel, but let's say you could access all mediums from day one, and those that are in spirit, plus our adorable, well-meaning group here. What would the answer be? And can AI eventually do that? Not that we take everything that they're going to tell us or instruct us for granted, but there's definitely an element that's, I think, going to be very illuminating if it's used properly to answer questions such as this.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Giving you a whole other topic for another day, Michelle.
Yeah, exactly. That's just like, whoa, okay, now that's a curveball right there, isn't it? and then we've got to trust AI, what AI is saying compared to our own experiences. Do you know what I mean? So are we still going to have our own opinion over AI? You know what I mean?
That's instinct, and that's your higher self and your connection beyond your left brain and your logical, my variables and my whatever. So definitely. So that's why I said, you can consider it, but ultimately anything with that kind of intelligence, there's the intelligence, and then there's your spirit and your knowingness of your higher self that I think, at least for me, that's got to be, my lighthouse forever. That's the one light that I will be like, oh, this is interesting. It's illuminating light on this stuff. I never saw that there, but I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to come back to that higher self and my higher consciousness. Yeah.
Well, AI can be artificial intelligence, or it can be artificial ignorance. The AI,
because they're all in the consciousness. All of that is available to it. Yeah.
Well, except where there's holes in it, okay, where the data hasn't, for whatever, been added, or because it's unknown, or, because it's void, okay. AI only works with what's loaded in the database that it's scanning, okay. And I've asked questions about AI specifically to do with the life of Jesus, and it's come back with very bad answers. And I asked the follow-up of like why you didn't include the texts from India and Ethiopia and Tibet in your answer, and the response from AI came back with, well, good call. Some of that stuff is controversial. It's not mainstream, blah, 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 blah. I mean, AI, unfortunately, can have a political dimension depending on how the engine is created. And we see that with Grok. which has made the news because of, idiotic things that it said. So, I mean, just remember, AI is still like any other computer program. It's only going to work with the data coming in. Okay. And if the data coming in is not thoroughly complete, you're going to get screwy answers.
Yeah, that's so true, Christian. That's food for thought for everyone when you're using AI. It's a risk you take, isn't it, to some degree in this given point in time, in the present moment, as to where technology is at. So, yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Christian. That's very relevant as well. So, well, guys, it's been a really great, I don't want to say debate, but a really great discussion. And I think you guys have all come up with some really relevant experiences and answers and different beliefs in why you think like you do, or why you've, due to your own experiences. So that in itself is gold for everybody listening. And again, we could be considered like AI. Take what you will, take what you believe, but we don't always have all the data. Like Christian says, all the information hasn't been uploaded yet until we get to the other side. So that being said, thank you so much, guys, for joining me today and answering those questions and then adding even more to it and giving it more depth. I will put all of the information in the description where everybody can find you should they want to contact you for any reason, whether it be a reading or they've got something that they want to ask you based on something that you may have mentioned in this podcast. So please reach out to our mediums. Thank you again, guys, for being here. And I know that we will definitely be doing another hot question on the Mediums panel. To view the show notes, head over to themediumstable.com.au. If you want to watch these episodes, head over to our YouTube channel, The Mediums Table Podcast.